With Hunter spiking in both play rate and win rate, you may be asking yourself, what can I do to punish these noobs? And for that, I would say you need to turn to Imp Curse Warlock. I'm Uncorrupt. I'm going to be covering what I would consider to be a soft counter to Hunter, which is about the best we're going to be able to do right now, in Imp Curse Warlock. I got the list right here. The list is actually unchanged by the mini set, so if you don't own Maw and Disorder, no problem there. We're not going to find any new cards here, but this deck is actually just really good against Hunter in my opinion. I'm going to show you exactly what I mean with a couple of games here in just a moment. Before we get into the games though, I want to talk quickly about the mulligan. We're really looking for the Imp package, so the deck itself is just a combination of the Imp package and the Curse package. We want to focus in the early game on the Imp package, so we would be looking for things like Flame Imp, Librarian. We would also want to keep Wicked Shipment. Impending Catastrophe and Vile Library are conditional keeps. You want to make sure that you have Imp minions to start the game. So for example, if you had a Fiendish Circle in hand, then you might consider keeping a Vile Library. So these two are going to be conditional keeps, but we would also keep Fiendish Circle, and if we have some of our earlier game Wicked Shipment, Flame Imp, Librarian, then we could also consider keeping the Mischievous Imp. So the general game plan here is, early on in the game against the Hunter, we want to be able to put minions on the board, and we want to be able to fight for the board. That's where our Imp package comes in. Being able to get a little chip damage face is certainly going to help, but we just want to make sure that we don't take too much damage. And then somewhere around the mid-game, we're going to switch over and actually put our focus on the Curse package in the deck, start stuffing those curses into our opponent's hand, again making sure that we're just not taking a whole lot of damage from our opponents, and then we actually kill them with the Curse damage. It works really, really well against Hunter. Hunter has next to zero outplay potential, but with this deck we do have the ability to at least be able to outplay the Hunters that we're going to be coming across. And now, let's jump straight into some games. So here we see that we are up against a Hunter, and again, we're just looking to keep our Imp package in the opening hand. Actually not going to keep Impending Catastrophe. I want to try to look for something a little bit earlier in the game to play, like a Flame Imp or a Librarian, but Fiendish Circle and Mischievous Imp are definitely going to be keeps here. And unfortunately, we have no turn one, so we're just going to pass that back to our opponent. And again, we're just wanting to fight for the early board and be able to get in some chip damage. And this is actually a really, really good start for our opponent here, so we're going to go ahead and get the Library in play. There's just nothing else that we could do other than maybe consider tapping, but we have the Fiendish Circle for next turn, so we're going to get the Library. That way we'll be able to buff one of the Imps. And again, this is a really, really strong start for the Hunter here. They have the Peasant on 1, and then they have the Dog Biscuit on 2. So we've got the 4/4 Peasant. They're drawing additional cards every turn. We just want to spend our mana. That's going to be Fiendish Circle, and then we're going to buff one of our Imps. And that's going to allow us to be able to contest the Peasant. Hoping that we don't see a ramming mount here. That's going to make things a little bit more challenging for the next turn, certainly. But I'm not even sure that these Hunter decks are running ramming mounts, so we're going to have the option to play the Mischievous Imp next turn, which is going to allow us to put more Imps on the board. It's going to allow us a bigger Vile Library the following turn. We can also consider trading in maybe some of our tokens here if we need to, just to make sure that we have an infused Mischievous Imp. The extra 3/3 is going to be much stronger than the little 1/1 token on the board, and we're not really worried about that one little chip damage that we might be doing against our opponent here. So pretty strong play again from our Hunter. They have a really good curve. Peasant into Biscuit buff, into Wild Spirits. So we're playing against a very, very good hand from our opponent. And we're just going to make this trade, and then we're going to go ahead and get our 3/3s down. So, and then of course we want to kill the Peasant here. We want to shut down our opponent's card draw. We want to take away one potential buff target. They do now have the 2/5 in play if they have a second Biscuit. Lots of cards in our opponent's hand. We hate seeing that against Hunter. That deck can potentially run out of cards sometimes, but not this game. School Teacher, so this is going to be their entire turn, unless they choose to coin out whatever it is they found. And next turn, we're likely looking at just probably some kind of Wicked Shipment Impending Catastrophe play. We want to be able to draw a bunch of cards of our own. Emergency Maneuvers off of the Noggling, that's going to be fine. And we actually want to draw as many cards as we can here. So with the cheap, realistically, we would probably not even be worried about the overdraw here, but we know we'll be able to play the Flustered Librarian at the end of the turn if we want, so we're not going to overdraw. And so we're going to get down the Wicked Shipment, and then we're going to draw a bunch of cards. Drawing cards is always good, especially in this deck. And see if we get anything that changes the rest of our turn here. So we're definitely going to want to buff an Imp. And we actually draw... The Grimoire of Sacrifice is actually a really good draw to get this turn, because we'll be able to play the Grimoire of Sacrifice on one of the 1/1s that just spawned. It's going to kill their 1/1 Noggling, which is going to proc the emergency maneuvers on the 1/1. So certainly not what our opponent was hoping for. They were wanting to be able to get back the 2/5 taunts, although they would come back dormant. And then we're going to take a value trade. We'll go ahead and get our Librarian down, and we're just going to shove 14 damage face here. So we've taken control of the board now. The Hunter had a really strong start. Their turn 4 was a little bit weak, but overall just a really strong start. And you can see we've been able to take the board back from them. And we're in a pretty dominant position here. Sometimes the Hunter deck actually just loses to the early aggression from the Imp package. I would consider the more classic game to be, you know, take control of the board early, and by the time our opponent's able to shove us back off the board, we're looking to kill them with curses and keeping the board clear with curses. You know, things like Abyssal Wave, as well as Tamsin Roam and Drag Below. But we're in a really good spot here as far as what we have access to. We have 19 on the board, but we haven't played a single curse yet. So we are not going to have lethal here. We could put 2 curses in their hand, though, with a Brand Cultist. We're going to tap. We actually hit the second location, so we're going to go wide with Imps, and we are going to just buff with the location here. This is just an overwhelming amount of pressure. Our opponent's already played the coin. The only way that they could really stop a lot of damage from coming in next turn would be to play the big taunt, but we actually just have lethal here. Coming right back in for another game. Again, we want to keep our Imp package, but we're not going to keep the location here. You know, we would rather have some of these 1-drops maybe, or Wicked Shipment, Flame Imp, things like that. So we like our hand a little bit better now. You don't want to keep the location if you don't have Imps in hand. We would rather just go ahead and take a mulligan and, you know, try to find a better start. Trog on turn 1, again, 40-card deck. They always have a 1-drop. But we're just going to get the Flame Imp in play here. This allows us to be able to challenge the Trog. Only other option would be the Wicked Shipment, but if we play it, we're going to summon an additional Trog. That would be a misplay. We could trade the Wicked Shipment, but we don't want to do that. We want to get those Imps in play in case we draw the location, or in case we potentially draw the Impending Catastrophe. And pretty straightforward again. We're just going to make the trade, and we're actually going to go a little bit off script here, and we're going to coin the brand. So our opponent is only going to have 3 mana the next turn. There is nothing in this Hunter's deck that's going to allow them to be able to remove this brand. And we also have 2 cultists in hand, so potentially on turn 4 they could have the Asharan Saber to be able to rush it into our brand. However, they're not going to be able to remove the brand, so this guarantees we're going to get 2 curses in their hand. So we fell just a little bit flat as far as the cards we ended up with in our hand. And we just want to go ahead and get these curses and swing face here. So we fell a little bit flat with the cards we have in hand. You know, we didn't really have a full package of Imp cards in hand to be able to play with. And so we went a little bit off script, and I would say that this game is atypical. I've played more than 100 games with this deck. This is the first time I've been able to play Bran on turn 2 in any matchup. You don't always want to do it. We're doing it specifically here because we know the Hunter can't remove it. And then we actually see the Okani come down. They don't have the Asharan Saber with Rush to remove the brand. I think we want to test here. Whoop. Okay, so they blocked a spell. We're just going to go ahead and play the Cultist. That's going to get another 2 curses in hand, and then all damage is just going to go face here. Curses really piling up in our opponent's hand very early this game. If they had countered Minion with the Imps in play, we would have played the location and actually buffed the brand and likely still just gone face with everything. We're going to force our opponent to make the trades. And you can see that this damage is actually piling up. They still have 2 curses in hand for 3 damage and 4 damage. We still have the board. And we have 1 additional curse in hand as well. And this is actually a weak turn 5 play from our opponent. I'm not a big fan of Erelon as a card. Our opponent choosing to remove the Cultist here. I probably would have removed Bran if I was in their situation. And Let's see, we can give them a curse for 5 damage. They have 3, 4, plus 5, plus 2, plus 3. This is actually just lethal. We've got 17 damage with the other curse here. So you can see that this is what I'm talking about when I talk about outplay potential. We're able to outplay our opponent. We had the Bran, we had some cards to be able to give curses in the form of cultists. So we were able to outplay our opponent. It didn't matter that we didn't draw our imp cards in this game. We were just able to set up lethal and actually kill them with the curse package super early. That's going to be a turn 5 kill for us with curses on a 40 health deck. So Hunter, definitely a pain, but Imp Warlock, good against it. I encourage you to get out on the ladder and try it if you can. I'm Uncorrupt. Thank you for watching.